Hi everyone. The problem now that we are going to solve involves the input table as message info. So this table has below columns: sender, who is the sender of the message; receiver, who is the receiver of the message, which is the information which is being sent from the sender to the receiver. So every entry gives the information of who is the sender, who is sending the message to the receiver. Now there is another input table which is decode details. So as we see here, this message is encoded. So as part of this problem, we need to decode the message. And for decoding this message, we have to use the decoding mapping. So in this second input table, we have the decode details. So this table has below columns: input code, that is the code to be replaced, and output code, that is the code which will be replacing this input code. So for example, if the input code has the character 0, it will be replaced by G. Similarly, if we see the other mappings, in the input we have the character F, it will be replaced by O. So this way we have to do this replacement so that we can decode this message. So as part of this output, we need to find the decoded message for each of the messages that are being sent from the sender to the receiver. So let's get started and solve this problem. Now, what we will do is, as a first step, we will try to get this input code as a single string, and similarly output code as a single string. So that will be the first step that we will be implementing. So let's get going. So what we will do is, we will start working on the decode details table. So for having all the entries merged together, we will use the string add function. In this, we will pass the column input code, and there will be no delimiter that we will be adding. So let's call this column as INP, representing input. So let's run and see the output. So this is what we have got. We have created a list out of the input code, and we have called this column as INP. So on similar lines, we will do it for the output code as well. That is the second column present in the decode details table. So let's use the same approach. We will use the string add function on the output code column with no delimiter added, and call this column as out. So let's run and see the output. So now we have created the input string and we have created the output string. If we see here, we have the characters in the order in which it is to be replaced. For example, the first character 6, like we see here as well, it is to be replaced with character F. So here as well, as we see, 6 will be replaced by F and 0 will be replaced by G, and so on. So we have a string of input and we have a string of output. Okay, so this is what we have created. Now, what is the idea here?
Why?
Why we have done this? So basically, we have to replace these characters with these characters, and we are going to use the translate function for achieving it. So in the message that is present, we will be decoding by using this approach, by replacing this input characters with these output characters. And for this, we will be using the translate function. So if you are unaware about the translate function, let's have a quick overview here. So say that we have a message which has this string in it, and we want to replace the characters A with dollar, B with 2, C with 3 and D with 4. So in the translate function, we will pass the column that we want to replace, where we want to do the modifications. We will specify which are those characters we need to replace, and we will specify the corresponding characters which will be the replacement for these characters. So there is one to one mapping for each of the characters. So once we run this, as we see, A is replaced by dollar at every occurrence. So for example, the first occurrence of A is dollar, and then here as well in between it has been replaced with dollar. Similarly, B has been replaced with 2 everywhere wherever it is occurring at the second position and last 3 positions, and C will be replaced with 3, D with 4, and the other characters like E, F, G. So for them we have not given any replacement, so they will remain as is. So as we see here, E, F, G is unchanged. So this way the translate operates. Whatever character we give, those corresponding characters will replace them. So this technique is what we are going to use here for decoding the message. So let's move on. So we have achieved this step. So we will add this as part of a CTE. Let's call it as decode CTE. Now what we will do is we will go to the main table, that is the message info table, and we will do a inner join with this table, that is the CTE that we just created. So let's give the alias as M and D respectively, and whatever output we have just generated, we want this to be present across every line of the input. So for that we will use the join condition as 1 equal to 1. For now, let's fetch all the columns from both the table and let's run and see the output. So now what we have done is, for the message info table, for each of the entries, we have got this input and output string. So this is the characters and this is the character that is to be replaced to get the final message in the decoded form. So once we have achieved this step, it is very simple. We have to use the translate function. We have to operate on this column. That will be our first parameter. So like we saw in the translate, the first parameter is the column on which we need to work. The second parameter is the character which is to be replaced, and third parameter is the replacement characters. So on similar lines we will do the operation here. So what we will do is, from the message info table we will keep the sender column, we will keep the receiver column, and so now we will use the translate function. So as the first parameter, we will pass this message column, and now these are the characters that we need to replace. So we will mention that here, and out column are the characters. Those are the replacement characters. So we will mention that. Let's call this column as final message. So let's run and see the output. So we have got the final output here. We have got the characters replaced and we have got the decoded message. So as we see here, like if this is the message 0, so 0 was the character in the message. So 0 is to be replaced by G. So as we see here, 0 has been replaced by G. The second character is F. So if we check here, F is to be replaced by O. So here we have replaced F by O. So this way the decoding has been done and we are able to check each of the messages. So this way we have solved the problem. Let's go through the query that we have written. So what we have done is, first we have gone to the decode details table. For every character that is present here, we have got it collected as a single string, first for the input and second for the output. So once we have that, we have done a inner join with the message info table using this output that we just generated. And what we have done is, in the message, we have replaced every input with the output characters using the translate function. So this way we have got the final output. So please go through it. The create table and insert statement will be added as part of the description. If you found the video useful,
Like,
please like
comment,
it.
and
If you have not yet
subscribe.
subscribed the channel, please subscribe. Please provide your feedback in the comments and please share the video in your circle so that more people can benefit. Thank you.